So welcome to this session, which is coined as the location intelligence session. And the focus really will be to explore a number of applications, use cases of location intelligence and how it can benefit organizations, institutions to really expose a lot of use cases for advancing analytics, specifically in the location application side. So my name is Roger Michael Kayumba. I'm a geospatial modeling specialist with Deloitte and Touche Ghana, and I'll be your facilitator for the session. So I'd really like to start by really putting forward this statement, which is in the circle or in the sphere of geographers, this is what we term as the location intelligence basics or location intelligence 101. And this is coined from a spatial scientist named Waldo Tobler. And this is a statement he made which really became the underpinning concept on which location intelligence is formed. And so the statement really states that everything is related to everything else, but near things are more related than distant things. So conceptually, what this seeks to imply is naturally we are inclined as human beings to really identify patterns and identify connections between events, between stationary objects, even between objects that are in motion. And we are hardwired to really appreciate the connection, the interactability of this event, object, or moving or stationary, whether they should be. And so this is what really underpins what location intelligence is. And throughout the presentation, you'll be really realizing that this concept of near things being more related to each other than things that are far apart keeps occurring in a lot of use cases. So this is a classic problem to really depict how location intelligence can really be used and really be leveraged on. And so you have a classic sales problem where take yourself to be a salesperson and you've been given this classic problem. And your target is really to sell solar panels to two different communities or two different neighborhoods. And so you are presented with insights that neighborhood A has just two houses that are connected to solar systems and all other houses are not connected. And then you have neighborhood B that has two houses that are yet to connect to solar systems compared to the whole neighborhood. Now, as a salesperson who is hardwired to really understand or appreciate interactability of things that are close together, you would definitely go with neighborhood B, which would be an easier target. So it will be easier to target the two houses that are yet to be connected to solar systems compared to the chunk of households which are yet to be connected. And so if you scale this problem up to be it regional or be it district or be it county level, wherever or from whatever jurisdiction you find yourself, you'd realize that once this problem is scaled up to a global scale or global scope, this becomes a lot more complex to really appreciate using your rational thinking. And so that is where spatial analysis really comes in handy, because once problems of these cases are scaled up, complexity also scales up. And so it becomes critical to really leverage on tools and analytics that can help you to deduce a lot more insights from your data sets. And so essentially, this is really what underpins location intelligence. And again, just to stress that these are the kind of concepts we'll be really delving into and really just for all of us to appreciate how location intelligence can really support the kind of work we do. And so I'll zoom into really discussing the 3 layers of analytics. And it is essential we really expose this because location intelligence just forms one component of what the whole world of analytics. So depending on where you come from or depending on the background you have, you would have interacted with Excel. And Excel is more like the most popular form of analytics tool that there is in in a lot of industries. And so taking location intelligence as a new component of analytics, our focus is really to identify the where, the why, and the when. And this is why this is essential. Starting with descriptive analytics, which forms the most basic or the first level of analytics we are all used to. I'm sure we would have all created bar charts, pie charts, if a bit advanced, would have created some dashboards to really interact with the data we work with. And so this is the most basic form of analytics that there is. But in the scope or in the space of location intelligence, we'd really be looking at where events really occur. So where an event occurs, where an object is stationed, where a moving object is going to. So even with objects that are in motion, you are really looking at a start point and an end point, which all still describes location. And so this is where location intelligence really starts, having an idea of where events are, having an idea of where objects are stationed, having an idea of how moving objects are moving from one point to another. And so this is what really starts the whole concept of location intelligence. And so we can grow this analytics into what we call diagnostic analytics. And this is where we begin to question why events really occur. This is where we begin to question why there is a certain pattern in the kind of the data we have. So example would be you using information or data on customers or clients. So imagine you're a business, again, I'm using the sales analogy. You are into sales and you're really looking at all your customer base. So you'll really be starting by looking at what's the spread of your customer base. So, okay, so are they concentrated within a specific location or specific locality? These are the things you really start by looking at. So at diagnostic analytics, you'll be looking at questioning why there's a concentration of customers at specific locations. So this is where we begin to use the correlations. We begin to use a lot more deep dive analytics to identify why patterns really exist. So it's not enough to really just look at where objects or where events are stationed, but questioning why really gives us another leg or another level of added advantage in whether we find ourselves in a competitive environment, or even we find ourselves in an environment where we want to be the first to market. Understanding why events and objects are stationed where they are really gives us an upper edge. Now, to gain even an upper or a higher edge, we would really be zooming into predictive analytics. And this is where we don't just question where, we don't just question why, but we begin to question when and where events are going to occur again. So again, using the sales problem, we've looked at really defining the spread of our customers. We've next looked at looking at defining or understanding why customers are concentrated within a specific location. The next thing we'll be looking at is how do we target new customers such that we are able to increase our revenue, we are able to increase our targets, we are able to even address whatever challenges or problems that we seek to address as a business. So this is where we begin to look at predictive models, predictive analytics, trying to predict where next we can target, looking at demographics, how demographics is growing, how migration is also changing, what are the dynamics in terms of the buying patterns of customers and all that. So combining all this, you'd realize that when we take data through these 3 stages and really focusing on the where of these data sets, we'll really be looking at what location intelligence is. So this is another level for you to really appreciate what's location intelligence. And even as we zoom into new slides, we'll really be appreciating it the more. So this slide is really to summarize what location intelligence really is all about. So we've been able to understand that location intelligence really fits within the 3 levels of analytics. And so in a nutshell, location intelligence really seeks to give whoever is applying these concepts an understanding of where events or objects are really stationed, why they occur or why they are stationed where they are, and then to even gain an understanding on when such events will next occur. And really the focus here is to give us a strategic advantage. And be it whether you are in a profit industry or in a non-profit industry, your focus is really to have a strategic advantage over your competition, over the kind or the or really gain whatever added advantage you would want to gain, whether it's to address a problem, to solve a problem. Really, the focus is really to give you that added advantage or strategic edge over your competition. And now we'll be doing this using maps. And I know maps is usually not really a fun area to really look at because of it really relates or needs your ability to appreciate how things are spatially spread. But location intelligence really is underpinned on the maps. And here we'll be looking at a lot of digital maps. So not hard copy maps that are used for navigating the seas or navigating mountains, but really we'll be looking at digital maps. And so even as we progress, you really appreciate how this is going to pan out. The next leg of location intelligence is really the mathematics around location intelligence. So again, once problems scale up to regional or global scales, complexity increase. And so for us to really solve these complexities, we cannot solve these complexities without the use of mathematics, specifically statistics. And so we'll be using a lot of statistical modeling, statistical analysis to solve those problems. So essentially, this is what underpins location intelligence, that ability to understand where things are, why they occur, when they are going to occur next. And we can actually solve this by using maps and statistics. So what makes this possible is really what we call the geographic information system. So geographic information systems, as the name suggests, is a system. And like you'd already know what a system is, a system really is what that entity that really combines a number of objects or components. So really, geographic information systems is just a combination of various components to give us that added advantage or added edge over competition. And so these components are broken down into 4 main components. And so our focus is really to look at data, software, people, and hardware. And so this is what really underpins what geographic information systems are. And so taking data, we are not just looking at just any form of data tabulated in a spreadsheet or in a relational database, but we are looking at data that can be pinned to a location. So at a start or at a base level, events don't occur in vacuum. So business transactions occur tied to locations. Occurrences, be it an accident, be it any form of event that there is, they occur tied to a specific location on the ground or on the earth. And so once you have data that can be referenced to location, be it a latitude and longitude value, be it a political description, you are really starting to really have geographic data being created. And so spreadsheets are usually the first that you'll be looking at. And that is the most common way to really tabulate your data sets. And tabular data sets would really range from relational data sets. So data that is stored in structured query languages or SQL structures would really be useful in this concept. And also shapefiles. Shapefiles is a unique or a specialized data set which is specific to GIS. And so shapefiles really combines your database, your projection, and the shape of whatever entity you are looking at. So any geographic information system can consume data which is in the form of shapefiles to give you a rendering, whether a rendering of a point, a line, or a polygon, depending on the feature you are interested in. CAD files is specific to engineering, specific to architecture, specific to design. And here too, we are combining a number of shapes, be it lines, be it polygons, be it points, to really define whatever object we are trying to define. Then satellite images, I'm sure we would have all used or interacted with satellite images because of Google Maps. So if you are used to using Google Maps, you would have interacted with satellite images. So it's simply an image which depicts the world as it is, captured through an aerial object. So the aerial object here is a satellite high above the ground and captures a series of images to depict the Earth as it is. And then drone images are also a new wave of data sets, and I'm sure we've also used drones here and there for either entertainment purposes or even for very technical purposes like we are discussing. So data, this is just some of the data we'll really be looking at. So the next leg we'll be looking at is software, and data on its own cannot make sense. Again, when problems are scaled to a global level, they become very complex to analyze with the human brain. And so software applications are useful in this area. And so we'll be looking at a number of applications, but specifically our presentation will be targeted to really expose the ArcGIS platform. And so for software or GIS softwares, we have a number of them. So categorized between proprietary applications and then open source applications. So in previous sessions, I'm sure colleagues of mine would have really touched on specifically open source applications. So open source applications would, as the name suggests, they are open to access. Source codes are open to access. You can actually modify the software, add functionality here and there, and it's open to anyone who can develop or code. And proprietary applications would be applications that are closed, and closed in a sense that source codes will not be out there. You would have to subscribe to the software to use, and usually they would really have a more robust system that is for supporting its user base. So not to say that proprietary applications don't have a good support base, but because proprietary applications are targeted to make profits, they put in the work to really build that robust support base. So essentially, software here really is just to consume the data that we discussed about and really make sense of the insights and analytics that we seek to define or develop. So the next is hardware, and software also cannot just run in vacuum. So we don't run softwares in the air. Softwares have to run on the hardware. And so here we'll be looking at PCs, that's personal computers, whether a laptop, whether a desktop, servers, or even cloud infrastructure. And then we also have GPS devices. So as the name suggests, it's the global positioning system. It's a device for capturing spatial data. So if you are on the field, you can actually use a GPS to capture either a latitude or longitude of an entity, of a feature, bring it into your GIS, visualize it, and reference it to its actual location on the Earth. So that's what a GPS really stands for. Then you have GNSS devices. So GPS devices, GNSS devices actually collaborate or work hand in hand. And basically, the GNSS device is a supporting device to enhance accuracy. And in this sphere of GIS, accuracy is key, and accuracy here defines the quality of data you are really collecting. So if you are collecting points, lines, or polygons, be it roads, be it light poles, be it a pipe, a water pipe, be it a building, your focus is really to capture it with minimal errors as much as possible. And so combining GNSS devices and GPS devices, you can actually improve accuracy and collect data to its best output. Okay. Last and definitely not least, and even very important, are people. And so you can have data, you can have software, you can have hardware, all interacting. If you don't have the expertise to really harness this, it's as good as nothing. And so hence even why we have these sessions even running. And essentially these sessions are meant to really equip us as organizations, as individuals, to really harness the power of data, the power of software and hardware to really make or develop the insights that we seek to develop. Okay, and in terms of the expertise, this is not specific to only geography or only people who studied maybe surveying or geodetic engineering. This is a space which is being used by business analysts, being used by data scientists, definitely, being used by engineers, civil engineers, geological engineers, even being used by epidemiologists, even in the health sector. So this is a system which cuts across sectors, cuts across industries. And the beauty about this system is, again, no event occurs in vacuum. Every event is tied to a location. And so once you can tie an event, once you can tie an object to a location, you've already started defining what geographic information systems is. And so it's a broad system, very, very, or a lot of use cases out there. And we'll be exploring a number of use cases even as we progress. And so as discussed, software is one component, but mainly the software of our target for this discussion or this session is really the Esri ArcGIS platform. This is a proprietary application, meaning a lot of the tools, some are free, but a lot of them are for sale. And I singled out Esri not for any reason, but because of the robust nature of Esri and how well structured Esri's platform is. So essentially, Esri really, or Esri's ArcGIS platform really provides us a system of record, a system of insight, and a system of engagement. Okay, so it's a system of record because it is not just a software, you just click a button and you have a tool running, but this whole platform is built to help you start at the most basic level of analytics, which is gathering your data or even organizing your data, putting them into different archives, defining relationships between different data sets. So at the basic start, which is a system of record, it's really defining the most basic level of analytics, which is defining how our data is going to be structured. And so Esri's platform gives us that environment to really define that robust nature of data sets we seek to use in our analytics, specifically location intelligence. So it's a system of insight because it really combines all the three levels of analytics. So there are some systems which will just give you descriptive insights. So just describing how or the nature of events or how one event ranks higher than another event through charts or through pie charts or through a dashboard. But Esri really takes us a lot more further. So taking us into the level of diagnosing why events are occurring in the first place. And even taking us into predictive analysis where we are beginning to predict events, where we are beginning to use machine learning, artificial intelligence to extract features in an automated sequence from satellite imagery predict when the next big forecast, or whether it's a market, we are trying to forecast the market, trying to really forecast how maybe stock prices are going to grow. GIS, or even specifically the ArcGIS platform, is well built to give us all the tools we need to build this kind of analytics. Last and not least is a system of engagement. And it's not enough to build your insights. It's not enough to predict whatever you're predicting. If you're building your insights and you're not sharing it with the community, you're not sharing it with stakeholders, you're not sharing this with the people whom you seek to really target, be it your customers, be it people you are really building whatever solution with your stakeholders. If you're not sharing this with them, the system is as good as nothing. And so Esri is still purposed to really give us that environment to distribute whatever analysis we build. And most importantly, to communicate this analysis. And so we are not just sharing the analysis, we are actually communicating or telling a story. And essentially, analytics really is about telling a story. It's not about crunching numbers. It's not about really building the most fanciful apps or dashboards. If we build all this and it doesn't really tell a story, or it doesn't really project a storyline, it's as good as nothing. And so ArcGIS platform is really built to give us these three layers or three legs of functionalities. And so ArcGIS platform comes in desktop applications which run on your PCs, which run on your laptops. It also comes with web applications which will run on a browser. So you can have applications which you can use for collecting data, for building dashboards, for building deep dive analytics. You can have a number of these applications running, and all these applications can run on the web. And then you also have applications which run on mobile. And so for mobile applications, you really be looking at applications that can help you to take whatever you are working on within the office to the field. And ArcGIS platform also gives us an environment to extend the platform as we wish. So again, for analytics to really be relevant, it has to be accessible to a lot more people. And so maybe at times we might pounce on these applications and we would want to extend it for a specific use case or for a specific audience. Esri gives us that environment to really build those applications. So if you are into software development, you can take advantage of APIs or SDKs for really extending the application as much as possible. So yeah, so that should really summarize what the ArcGIS platform really seeks to address or achieve. And so for the next series of slides, we'll really be exploring some use cases of location intelligence in various sectors, various industries. And so starting with health, which is most recent or most relevant topic of discussion in our time now. Due to COVID, discussions about health have become a lot more necessary, a lot more important. And so starting with health, again, COVID really stands out on the use of location intelligence. So starting with Johns Hopkins, once COVID really was declared to be a pandemic, 2020, if I'm correct. Yeah, so 2020, Johns Hopkins was really the key innovator in using GIS, or Geographic Information Systems, to really understand how COVID is spreading, understand what's the source, how is it really spreading across the globe, what are the numbers, what is the distribution of the numbers, and all that. And even as far as going down to really reporting on specific locations, not just a global or regional understanding of how the virus is spreading, but even as far as going down to how the virus is spreading from person to person. So I'm sure you're already familiar with what contact tracing is. And specifically in Ghana, you would have contact tracing. You would have contact tracing really being used to really understand how the virus is spreading, specifically in Ghana. And I really give kudos to the Ghana Health Service for really taking on board GIS as their main form of reporting platform. So if you've been using the Ghana Health dashboard, this was actually built with Esri's ArcGIS platform. Those of us who will be joining from Nigeria, I'm sure you're also familiar with the NCDC dashboard, which is also built on Esri's ArcGIS platform. So you can see that within health, our focus here is really to understand or even monitor diseases, okay? Understand how diseases are spreading. And essentially, it's really for us to know what's the source of the disease. Okay, and this was a classic problem early in the days, in the 1900s or so. It was a classic problem in really understanding how cholera was spreading those days. So in those times, people attributed the spread of cholera to a number of weird things, okay? People didn't really attribute it to contaminated water sources. So people had weird understandings of how cholera was spreading. People were saying it was a curse. People were saying it was, I mean, all the funny conspiracy theories you would have. But a popular geographer or scientist really took it upon himself to really understand, not just looking at the count of cases, but looking at what is the spread of cases spatially. Okay, and the word there is spatially. And so this really means putting everything or putting all the records of cases you have on the map. Now, once you're able to visualize these cases, it gives you another added advantage. So, I mean, compare yourself to two medical experts. One medical expert has a spreadsheet load of cases. Okay, so he just has the name of the person, his age, and a number of biodata. Okay. The second person has a map that has every single case pinpointed to its location. Clearly, the second doctor has an added advantage because he's going to be able to really zoom down to understand what is the source of the disease. And so disease monitoring is very key area in how location intelligence is being applied in health. And so you have the use cases for early warning systems. And so again, COVID has really taught us to really leverage on a number of analytics for cases such as this. And so you are beginning to see a number of health warning, early warning systems crop up across the globe. And so I understand Nigeria within the periods of COVID had another disease which was really spreading at an alarming rate. And because of the learnings they had using the ArcGIS platform to define a dashboard for analyzing how disease is spreading, this was also useful to them to really give inhabitants of a specific community an early warning as to how diseases are spreading. Maybe they might be the next potential location. Okay, looking at how diseases are spreading by looking at the map. Okay, and also really the most underlying basics of it, which is the capturing and storage of data, cannot be overemphasized in health. And so again, health records are now being tied to where patients are staying or even where patients are working. Because once any patient reports of any disease which looks very weird, an added advantage is to know where the patient is staying, so you can understand the radius of spread that this person might have in affecting other people. Key and not certainly not least is the ability to predict how diseases are going to spread. Again, still using COVID as an example, location intelligence became a very useful tool to really appreciate how the disease is going to spread. Where is it going to spread next? So that we can put in a lot more resources into those areas to address the disease ahead of time. Okay, so in a nutshell, for health, this is how location intelligence is supporting the health industry. So zooming into banking and finance, again, our ability to really aggregate, visualize data spatially cannot be overemphasized. Okay, now in banking and finance, again, our focus here is really to have an added advantage over our competition, or even to make a majority of the returns in our investments. And so if we're able to reduce our risk, we're able to reduce the fraud cases as much as possible, it directly correlates to us being able to increase our revenue. Okay, so I would start by really looking at how location intelligence is supporting banking and finance in fraud detection. And so those of our colleagues in banking or in finance would really appreciate the concept of using link charts or link analysis to understand how fraud is spreading. Okay, now the first point of really detecting fraud is through a transaction. So looking at flagging transactions which are out of the blue, or flagging transactions which are not within the norm. So for example, say I have an account with Bank X and I am used to maybe withdrawing an amount of, let's say, 500 cedis every month in total. Okay, looking at maybe the total expenses I'll be incurring within the month. And all of a sudden now we withdraw, say, 5,000 cedis within the month. All right, it definitely shoots a flag. Or even mainly in deposits. If I am used to depositing a certain amount, a fixed amount in my account, banks will usually assume that maybe that would be my salary, or that would be my compensation for whatever economic activity I'm engaged in. But once I have a huge deposit done over a long period of consistent deposits, you realize that that would definitely be flagged as an outlier. Okay, but now if we are looking at outliers by just looking at them through the lens of a spreadsheet, again, it becomes very complex to analyze. But if we are looking at these events through the lens of a link analysis, where we are linking transactions to different transactions, we are linking transactions to ATMs, we are linking transactions to bank branches. If we are defining or analyzing our problem based on this concept, it's easier to really identify the connections that exist between transactions and easily identify fraud cases. Okay, so fraud detection, this is how GIS, location intelligence, is really being used in this area. So for exploring new markets, again, if you're in the banking and finance industry, your sole purpose is to make profits, is to make the most of the returns. And so your focus is really to have an added edge over your competition, to target new markets. If it's about opening a branch, if you have 5 banks competing within the market, your ability to open the first branch at a very vacant or a virgin location, which have no branches, you would usually have the first or added advantage over the competition. So ability to really understand where next to target, okay, by combining a number of data sets, be it demographics, be it competition locations, being your customer spread, your ability to really define where next to target or what next to invest in is really key, and location intelligence is really supporting in this area. Now, next is strategic placement of assets. So if you are in the space of mortgages, managing mortgages, you are really looking at the need to really strategically place assets. So if you're advising real estate companies or developers, okay, your ability to place assets at strategic places or strategic points in reference to how market trends are growing, in reference to where is a new area to target. Okay, looking at how people are migrating from place to place, how people are renting properties. If you have all these insights, okay, as a bank, you would know where next to place an ATM bank. As a bank, you know where next to place your branch, okay? And all this is made possible, again, through location intelligence. So if it's not your ability to really visualize data spatially, this will not be possible. And very important is your ability to understand your customers. Again, we live in an era where customers are ever more transacting online. Okay, so if you have an added advantage on understanding how your customers are using, say, your Visa cards online, what are they purchasing frequently, how often do they purchase it, what modes of payment do they use? Is it mobile money? Is it Visa cards? If you're a bank and you understand this and you tie all these transactions to location, it gives you an added advantage. Okay, so it helps you to understand your customer better. It helps you to give them better offerings or better solutions. And most importantly, it helps you to serve them better. And so at the end of the day, your customers will always be happy because you are ahead of the game. You know what next they might desire for. Okay, so just to summarize, this is what location intelligence is really delivering to the banking and finance industry. So agriculture is a new space, not necessarily new, but a very interesting space, and most importantly for Africa. Okay, so geopolitically, there's a lot of targets for Africa because Africa is a new emerging market for production. So be it manufacturing, be it agricultural production, Africa is a key market. Now, our ability to really leverage on this insight that we are the next big market, and so we need to revolutionize how we produce food will be key. All right, so this picture really summarizes how location intelligence is really revolutionizing how agriculture is done. So gone were the days where farmers just had to rely on the understanding of weather patterns and know when next to plant a crop. And they just spread seeds on the land and they put all their eggs on or bang all their hopes on fate to have good returns or good produce. Gone are those days. Now you're using a lot of insight, a lot of satellite imagery, a lot of understanding on which portions of land is best suited for specific crops, and understanding on even as far as navigating down to the nature of soils, okay, in different pockets, understanding how the nature of soils have evolved over the years, and in the next 10 years, how may soil to be the next crops to really target in specific locations, looking at how soils are evolving over the years. Suitability analysis, again, is as if you're a big farming corporation, it will be very irrational for you to just go to any location and just buy land because land is available. Now, if you're able to understand what crops grow well at specific locations, that gives you an added advantage over the competition. Okay, so your ability to really run suitability analysis and define what crops will perform well at what locations, within what climate, this gives you an added advantage. Now, predicting crop yields was more like rocket science then, but now you can easily predict crop yield combining a number of factors: weather patterns, combining soil types, combining the rate of production, combining the nature of seeds we are planting. I mean, combining all these factors and even combining even the possible market you are seeking to target. Putting all this together, we can really define what crop yields we are going to gain over specific periods of time. Okay, deducing crop health, monitoring the state of our farms, and essentially here, our focus is really to add a digital lens to farming. We know farming is a very more like rural thing to do, but location intelligence is really adding that digital feel to agriculture. Okay, so a lot of use cases are cropping up. Farm digitization applications where you are digitizing the whole farming process. So right from planting down to harvesting, straight into your supply chains, you are digitizing the whole process. So you understand how crops are faring at specific locations. You understand how crops are being grown over the period. Once it's harvested and is distributed through your supply chain, your understanding of how your produce are moving. Once you have an understanding of this, you are always going to be on top because you always know where next to target. You always know what next to grow. You always know what added on, or you're always at the top, understanding what next to do specifically to your crop plantation, your crop yields and all that. And so within agriculture to location intelligence is really changing the scope or the scope of things here. And so looking at utilities, utilities is a very key infrastructure in our age. We are ever more growing in demand for energy and also growing in demand for water resources. And even as demand grows, even as our infrastructure, our utilities infrastructure grow, we cannot outgrow this infrastructure. And so inventory management is very key. And what inventory management simply seeks to achieve is to first of all know where your assets are, know what the state of the assets are, and then know how these assets affect your customers. So this is what really underpins inventory management. And location intelligence is really revolutionizing how utilities take advantage of this. Also, defining the scope of utility planning. So whether you're in the water sector, you are in the electric sector, whichever sector you really find yourself, you would really be looking at how to really plan your utilities, how to really put your utilities within various strategic points to serve a broader market area. And so within utility planning, location intelligence is key. Again, your utilities are not going to hang in the air. Your utilities are going to be tied to ground spots. So even if it is an electric line running on top or running on poles, the poles are stationed to the ground, stationed to transformers, stationed to customers. And so understanding all this and knowing where next to really expand your infrastructure is key. And key to the electric sector would be, even the water sector, will be your ability to simulate how disruptions will affect your customers. So if you're a utility and you have a system that can simulate the broadness or the scope of disruptions, if maybe a transformer goes off or if maybe a water supply point goes off, if you have that ability to really appreciate how customers will be disaffected or disadvantaged, you would always have an upper edge over your competition. Okay, and so again, here utilities can not do without location intelligence. Location intelligence is a very critical component of the whole operations of utilities. And your ability to really simulate disruptions is key. And location intelligence is making that area very useful. Again, your ability to integrate various systems is very important here. And utilities are using not just GIS, they are using customer relation management platforms or systems, they are using utility management platforms where you are managing the hardcore utility points. So if it's within the electric sector, you are really managing the electrical side of things. If it's in the water sector, you're managing the water distribution side of things, where you are managing water pressures, whether they are increasing or reducing, managing the flow. I mean, your ability to have you have all these systems, and all the systems are available and mainly available within SCADA systems. Now, if you take a SCADA system, combine it with a spatial system, a GIS, you have location intelligence. So you don't just have an understanding on where or the distribution of assets, you also have an understanding on the engineering of your assets. So taking your voltage fluctuations or even taking your pressure fluctuations for depending on the utility, combining this with location gives you an added advantage. And again, this is very useful to utilities. Now, if you have all this infrastructure and you are not effectively monitoring the state of these assets, again, the assets will die off, go out of use, and your whole infrastructure might fail. And so to really have a robust monitoring system is very essential, very key to utilities. And so location intelligence through GIS is making this very possible. And so using mobile applications for collecting data, for visualizing data on the field is making this very possible. So gone are the days where engineers, be it in the utilities sector for water or electricity, had to take paper reports on the field and then manually scribble down what's the state of the assets, what possible remedies could be applied to these assets to bring them back to life. Gone were those days when we had to use paper, we come back to the office and we scribble everything back into Excel. Okay, we might lose data in the way and all that. But now you can actually use mobile devices, take the data out there. So your utility lines are already well defined through a map consumed on your mobile device, and you can always go there and have a historical view of how assets have fared over the years. Okay, and even have directly report systems built into your mobile applications where you can report on the state of these assets, and you have live dashboards to give you a holistic view of the state of assets within whatever jurisdiction you are working in. Okay, so in a nutshell, again, this is how location intelligence is really changing the scope in utilities. Another evolving sector will be the engineering construction sector. So this is the architectural, engineering, and construction industries. So be it whether you're an architect, you are a civil engineer, or even you're a contractor, one key platform or technology that you are already using would be the Building Information Management System, or BIM. And Autodesk is very key within this sector. So as engineers and as architects, you're already using these tools to really define the work you do. But now another leg of things which is really coming up is the use of geographic information system within a concept called geodesign. And here you're looking at what environmental factors really affect your project. Okay, so in terms of urban planning, so in this case, you're not just looking at a specific structure, designing a specific structure, but you're looking at designing how a broader scope is going to look. So in urban planning, it's very key here. So already GIS is being used in land records management. So if you are a landed record management, so in Ghana, we call them the Lands Commission. In other nations, you might call them differently, but essentially, they are the public or government entity responsible for managing land records. And again, GIS is useful in this area. So if you take the worlds of GIS, the worlds of BIM, and you combine them together, you have location intelligence really at play. So you're not just designing structures based on the column sizes, based on the beam sizes, based on the nature of the foundations, but you are designing structures that fit within the context of the environment, within the context of the urban space you find yourself. Okay, and so if you have these two worlds marrying, you are really going to solve the problem of development going ahead of, development going ahead of the expansion of key infrastructure such as utilities. Okay, so if we have a good urban planning system, okay, combine that with your architectural engineering infrastructure, you have a robust system. Okay, so integrating the two worlds of GIS and BIM is how location intelligence is really changing the space. Okay, there's another space for indoor mapping. And indoor mapping really is essential for infrastructures that are very broad in scale. Example would be an airport. So I don't know, I know South Africa might have very complex airports. Kenya might also have very complex airports. But a number of airports in Africa aren't as complex as the developed world, like the Americas, Europe, and all that. Those jurisdictions, you have airports covering almost a whole community. Okay. Now imagine you are new to such an airport. Maybe you are coming from Ghana. You just have a very simple airport, all right? And you go to an area where you have a very complex airport. Navigating the airport will be hell for you, especially if you are not in a very friendly environment where you can easily interact with people. And even within our era of COVID, where social distancing is becoming key, navigating such an airport will be hell. Okay. An application on your phone, okay, where you could actually know which space is for maybe gates, what. So instead of just asking people, you can have an app that navigates you to a specific gate for boarding your flight. Or you can have an app that navigates you to a specific spot for maybe eatery, a specific spot for maybe using or something. Just imagine an application that navigated you indoor, not externally. Okay, and this is possible. This is possible with location intelligence. Okay, so bringing that concept of outdoor mapping indoors is possible with location intelligence within the AEC sector. Okay. Another area will be the ability to simulate how new infrastructure affects environments. And I think we've already addressed that. So again, our focus is not just to grow infrastructure indiscriminately, but we are growing infrastructure with an eye on our environment, with an eye on how planning is oriented, with an eye on how public safety is oriented, with an eye on how basic amenities such as hospitals, schools, and other amenities are also growing. Okay. Last and not least is smart city implementations. And the concept of smart city is really to take, again, the worlds of BIM, the worlds of GIS, combining them to really have what we call a digital twin. And really the concept of digital twins is to take any human system we find ourselves. A city is a very complex system. Okay, utilities are in there, infrastructure is in there, that's the buildings themselves, the road networks are in there, businesses are running. You know, it's a complex ecosystem. Now, your ability to model this complex ecosystem with digitally, okay, such that you can simulate how a road blockade would affect not only traffic, but will affect businesses, how it will affect schools, how it will affect even emergency services. This is the concept of smart cities. Okay. And again, this is not rocket science. These are all things that are possible with location intelligence. Once you're able to tie your infrastructure, you're able to tie your businesses, you're able to tie your assets to location, you're already on the way to really building some location intelligence. And so these are just some sectors where location intelligence is really useful within our space. All right, so we've seen very beautiful things. We've seen very amazing stuff of how location intelligence is used. But really, what is really making all this possible? Again, back to the ArcGIS platform, the Azure ArcGIS platform, which is really changing this space of things. Now, the ArcGIS platform is again made up of a number of applications, a number of tools. Now, for our focus for today, we'll just be looking at the web interface of things, or which is what we call ArcGIS Online. Okay, so we have the ArcGIS Online, we have the ArcGIS Enterprise. Okay, and really this is an ecosystem of tools which are used for the field or for office. So field apps are useful there for taking your data to the field. Office apps are useful there for really building the kind of insights, dashboards, or analytics that we seek to build to really tell a story. Okay. So Azure's ArcGIS platform really comes within a cloud or an on-premise setup. So both worlds really give you the same set of solutions, the same set of apps. The difference there is just where your infrastructure is hosted. So in one case, you would have your infrastructure hosted on the cloud, where you would have your data really running either on Amazon, Microsoft Azure, and any other cloud environment provider, or you would have your infrastructure being deployed on premise, which is you are deploying it on a server you've hosted in-house, whether in your office, even at home. You can actually deploy some of these tools. Okay, but essentially they just give you the same set of solutions, same set of tools. Okay, so I'll just touch on a bit of them, the key ones there, to really make sense of them and really tie them to actual use cases. So starting with Navigator. So again, the applications that are split within apps that could be used in the field, apps that could be used in the office. Okay, so starting with apps that could be used in the field. Navigator is, as the name suggests, is just for navigating. Okay, so imagine you had a map of your, say you are an electric utility, and you had a map of your electric lines, your poles, your transformers, okay, digitally, right? And you're an engineer, new to the company actually, and you had to go to a specific asset to ascertain the state of the asset, all right? You don't have to rely on people, calls, and really distort the whole chain, waste time. Once you have such an app, you can easily just navigate to that asset, okay? So it's similar to you navigating on Google Maps, but then this time you are navigating two assets. So this time you have assets plotted on the map, and then you can easily navigate to those assets. So that's what Navigator really seeks to really deliver to its users. So Explorer for ArcGIS, as the name suggests, it helps you to explore your data, all right? So again, you're using digital maps. You're using maps that are not hard copy maps, but they are digital maps. So again, taking your maps or your data plotted on maps, you can just use that to really explore the data. So understand what the spread of your assets are, the spread of your customers, or the spread of your infrastructure or assets, if you are a bank or a financial institution or a real estate company, appreciates how your properties are spread. This application is useful for that. Then there's Collector for ArcGIS. As the name suggests again, Collector is for collecting data, all right? Now, again, back to your mobile device, you are a utility. There's a new transformer that has been installed at a specific location, all right? Your job as an engineer is to go there and then report on the asset that has been installed. What's the make of the asset? Who are the engineers that installed or consultants that installed them? What is the next maintenance period? You know, all these intrinsic values of the asset, all right? we no longer need to write this in paper or document reports. All right, you can easily take an application pre-configured to collect all these attributes, all this information. You just populate that application, tag it to a specific location, and you submit. Okay. Now, what you've just done is you have actually not just collected properties of the assets or properties of a customer or a property or an asset. You have actually tagged it to a specific location. So at the end of the day, this is not just going to come in a spreadsheet or in a database. You'll be able to plot it on a map, and the story goes on. All right. Then you have Workforce for ArcGIS. Workforce really is that tool that helps you to manage the name, as the name suggests again, your workforce. All right. So if you, again, using the utility example, you're a utility, you have a set of engineers allocated to specific areas to ascertain state of assets or monitor the states of these assets. All right. You can actually use Workforce to coordinate the whole team. All right. So assign tasks, assign task urgencies, assign and even monitor how your team is performing. All right. Now, in our era of working remotely and all, I mean, you will definitely have people who might not really do the work. All right. But if you are a utility, your key here is really to ensure that engineers are always going to assets and really monitoring these assets. If you're a business who is into sales, your target is to make sure that your sales team are actually going out there to prospect for new leads. All right. If you are an NGO, your target is to make sure that your team is going to the intervention points and really reporting on those interventions. So as a manager or as an institutional lead or a team lead, you can use Workforce to really coordinate the whole team, assign tasks, really monitor how your team is performing. Okay, so it's not really to really attack people per se for non-performance, but really is to just give team leads that effective environment to really coordinate teams. All right, to really coordinate teams. Survey 123, as the name suggests, is for developing survey templates. So I'm sure we are already familiar with the Google Forms and all other data collection tools. But Survey 123 gives you that added edge of location, right? So you're not just building a form for collecting names or text or drop downs or single select options and all that, but you are building a form that collects location as well. All right. Tracker for ArcGIS, again, very easy to identify through the name. It helps you to track your assets, track your team, and really understand how your team is performing. Again, this is tied to really team management. All right. So if you're a corporation that really relies on a lot of field engagement, all right, it's key to really appreciate how your staff or team is really performing out there. All right. And mainly even in the area of safety. All right. So again, not really at looking at targeting people and looking at people that are underperforming, which is very essential for a business, but really to really look at the safety of your team. All right. So there are so many instances where a team of field workers are sent out there to very remote areas, and they either get attacked, either get mistreated and all. All right. Using Tracker on your applications or with your field teams, you actually keep seeing their real-time location as they move. All right. And this is very useful to really address the issue of safety of your team. Okay. So quick capture is simply for capturing data, and as the name suggests, it helps you to quickly capture data. All right. So there are cases where you will not be interested in really capturing data just out of the blue, or data just for capturing sake. You would want to maybe capture specific components of the data. All right. Quick capture helps you to do that. All right. So zooming into the Office apps, for Office apps, you have a wide range of Office apps. Okay, you have a wide range of Office apps. And essentially, we are really looking at applications that can consume the data you have and generate the insights you want. So dashboards is one of the first areas where we'll really be looking at really building some location intelligence or insights. Okay. So again, back to our examples. Say you're a bank, you've gone out there to prospect for sales, and you've been able to prospect a number of sales. Okay, you would want to visualize how your sales are, what's the spread of your sales in relation to your customer base, in relation to your competition. Okay, dashboards will be very useful for this. Okay, again, dashboards are useful in an instance where you are running a constant data collection effort. So if you're a utility and maybe you are mapping or collecting data for an unmapped area, right? Dashboard is a way to really monitor how the whole project is going. Okay, and again, dashboard is very useful in the non-profits, where non-profits are constantly engaging with marginalized communities to address a lot of problems. Okay, you want to always be reporting to stakeholders on how these interventions are going, and dashboards are very, very useful for that. Okay, and you have ArcGIS for Power BI. Now, I don't know if you know what Power BI is, but Power BI is part of the suite of applications for Microsoft. So this is more like a plugin that integrates with Power BI and then helps you to fuse maps, not just maps, but helps you to fuse data collected in your geospatial platform into your Power BI interface. Okay, you have business analysts, which is basically for building a lot of business cases. Okay, and this is specific to businesses that are constantly engaging with customers to generate revenue. All right. Okay, so this is very suitable for corporations that are heavily relying on sales. Okay, so really to understand your markets, prospective markets, how markets are growing, it's key to really have business analysts. Okay, so web app builder for building web applications that's basically perform specific operations. Your ArcGIS map for Office. So once you have your Office 365, you can actually integrate this with ArcGIS map for Office so that you can actually consume data from your spatial platform into your Office environment. So you can actually build your Excel applications with some maps. You can fuse some maps into your PowerPoint. You can even fuse some maps into your report in Word. Okay, so App Studio is basically for building custom web applications or mobile applications. Okay, similar to what Web App Builder does. And Insights for ArcGIS, as the name suggests, for generating insights. So yes, dashboards will help you to generate insights, but if you're looking at deep dive insights, trying to understand the why and then the when of your analytics, you are really looking at having some ArcGIS insights supporting that. And there you have a number of algorithms for correlation, deep dive statistics and all. Okay, so if you are really seeking to understand, to give you that added edge for predictive analysis, the added edge for cognitive analysis, you are also looking at insights for ArcGIS for this. Okay. All right, so next we'll be looking at how do you get started with ArcGIS? How do you get started with the ArcGIS platform? Okay, so to get started with the ArcGIS platform, you would have two options to go with. Okay, so you would either be going with the free versions or you'll be going with the paid versions. Okay, so free versions, you have the options for creating an account within Africa Geoportal. So Esri has built Africa GeoPortal to be a host for curated data content for Africa. So a number of contributors are on this platform, contributing data on a day-to-day basis, contributing applications, dashboards, all across Africa. And everything is curated for Africa, okay? And so you can have a free account by registering at africa.maps.arcgis.com. So once you go there, just click on the sign up button. You'll be navigated to complete a form, and Esri will respond with an account for you. Okay, so with that account, you can actually log in, create maps, load in your data, and then do a number of things. Okay. So another way to access ArcGIS would be to go with a developer account. So your developer account, which, as the name suggests, is for software developers. Not just software developers, but also for people who are starting with ArcGIS. Okay, so you can equally go to developers.arcgis.com/sign up, and you will be able to sign up for a free account. Okay, now these accounts are limited in functionality. So if you are looking at doing very advanced statistical analysis, spatial analysis, then you would have to go with a paid version. Okay, so the paid version comes with a full functionality, and at personal use, last time I checked, this is as low as 500 cedis per year. Okay, so if you are an individual, not a corporation, and you want to take advantage of this for your research, for your own analysis, even for your consulting work, as low as 500 cedis, you can have this running. So this is a cloud environment which has all the applications suites I've really outlined previously. All the use cases outlined are supported for this application. Okay. All right, so we'll zoom into a demonstration of how ArcGIS really works. And for this, I'll be focusing on ArcGIS Online. Okay, I'll be focusing on ArcGIS Online. So I would like us to go to any of these URLs. So just for the sake of time, I've created an account ahead of time, so we can all use this account to test the environment. Okay, so it looks like we are way behind schedule, but we would try and really complete this in the next 10 to 15 minutes. Okay, so just go to arcgis.com and then use these credentials, this username and password. So I'll be switching my screen, but before I switch, I'll share these credentials in our chat section so we can have access to the account. So give me a moment, let me quickly share those credentials. So I have pasted the credentials, that's the URL to access. So you can either go to arcgis.com or go to the ADSC-2021 link. So any of the links there will take us to the ArcGIS login page. Okay, so I'm switching my screen to my login, that's my browser. So just give me a moment. Let me share my screen. All right, so kindly confirm if you can see my new screen. It's a browser. It's a browser, so kindly confirm if you can see my new screen. Great, thanks, Amos. All right. So once you click on the link, let me just log out and then we all go through the process together. Okay. So once you click on the link, be it arcgis.com or the ADSC link, it should take you to a page that looks like this. If you click on the second link, it will take you to the page requesting you to sign into the Africa Digital Skills Conference demo account. If you just click on arcgis.com, it will just take you to the default ArcGIS login page. Okay, whichever one you log into, it will still take you to the same account. All right. So simply just copy and paste your username and password. Okay. Copy and paste the username and password into the so once you copy and paste, you should have access to your Africa Digital Skills Conference demo account. Okay, so if you go through the Africa GeoPortal link or you go through the developer link, you will be requested to create your own account. Okay, so just for us not to waste too much time, I have already gone through that, and so this is actually a free account which you can use, and it's a bit limited, but it does most of the work you will need to do. Okay, so quickly let me navigate you through the interface, then we quickly create something very basic for the conference. Okay, so once you log into your ArcGIS Online, you would be navigated to the organization page. Okay, so your ArcGIS Online is, again, it's a cloud account. Okay, so this means that the software developer, who is Esri, has hosted this whole system of tools, okay, on a cloud environment, right? So it means if you upload data, it goes to the cloud. If you create applications, they go to the cloud. If you create content, they go to the cloud. Okay, so just take note of that. All right, but you can have the same infrastructure, this same setup configured on your own server. Okay, so if you're a corporation, you have a set of servers, you can deploy the same functionality on your servers, but they will still be accessed through a browser. All right, so then this time you will have to configure a web browsing setup on your server, okay, for hosting this application, and you can easily consume it through your browser. Okay, so organization is where you have information about the account. Okay, so basic information such as the subscription ID. Now, because this is a yearly subscription account, you would have a subscription ID. All right, then you would have a data store, and data store simply represents the database where your data is going to be stored. All right, now this is a standard database, meaning for almost all ArcGIS Online accounts, they have the standard database. Okay, so this simply represents your data storage environment. Okay, so regional data hosting, this is where your data is going to be hosted. So this is the data is being hosted in the United States. Okay, and then you can click on symptom help to really ascertain the health of your whole infrastructure, which is your ArcGIS Online. Okay, and then you have your information on your date it was created, and then the dates of renewal. Okay, so this account is a free account, a perpetual account. So even after this training, you can continue to use it for your own analysis, your own testing. Okay, and this section will give us information on how many members are in the organization. Okay, now it is called an organizational account, and this is the reason. You can add more than one account to this environment. Okay, so say I was an organization, I was a utility. I had a set of engineers, a set of accounting teams, a set of analysts. Okay, I could add all of them as members. Once they are assigned accounts, they can also create data, they can also create applications, and then consume analytics that is created. Okay. So I wanted to switch over to content, which is on the top upper left, upper section of ArcGIS Online. Once we switch to content, you have this interface. All right. So content is where you have a list of all the content you have created on your account. So anytime you create data, anytime you upload data, anytime you create an application, anytime you create a dashboard, anytime you create insights, they will all be listed here as content. Okay, so this is just a curated list of content that you are going to create. All right. So you can do things as adding new accounts or new items. So if you click on the new item, which is just here, clicking on a new item, it takes you to this page. And here you can actually upload any form of data set. So if it's a data set, if it's an application, you can actually upload it. So say you're a software developer, you have created an application, created the executables, created the whole hosting component. You can upload it here and then it runs as a cloud application. Okay. You can create features, okay, and features here simply means data, right? Tile layers also means data, and then a URL, okay? So a URL would be basically referencing data from a specific URL, okay? And by default, you can bring in data from your Google Drive, your Dropbox, your OneDrive, and even your own PC or own device, okay? So basically, that is what ArcData would really give us. All right, so you also have the Create App button. All right, the Create App button actually allows us to create different forms of applications. So like we've already seen what Web App Builder is an application for building web applications. And web applications in the context of GIS are skewed to do specific operations or specific things, okay? So that is what web applications are really meant for. Then you have story maps. Story maps, as the name suggests, are maps that tell stories, okay? Then you have dashboards, as the name suggests, a combination of various insights or analytics to really give you the added advantage you need. You can create websites, and a site here are tailored sites, not just any website, but tailored sites, which actually helps you to share your content. So if I build a dashboard, I can actually fuse it into a site. If I build a story map, I can fuse it into a site. If I build a web application, I can fuse it into a site. And the site is where you are delivering or communicating that story, all right? So you're creating insights, all right? The insight is for an audience. And so your site is where you're communicating those stories you want to communicate, all right? Then you have Experience Builder, where this is a more advanced version of your web app builder. So if you are building very complex web applications for really doing complex stuff, as complex as you can think, Web App Builder can help you. Experience Builder can help you build that. And then you have configurable apps. All right, so these apps are pre-configured to specific things. All right, so say you are a financial institution and you are looking at building quickly an application to display your bank assets and really have people to click on the map to see what those assets represent. You have pre-configured templates for that, all right? And a number of templates for specific industries, specific jurisdictions. You can use those pre-configured apps, okay? Now on this section, these are navigation panels. So once you're on My Content, it navigates you to every single content you have created, be it data, be it applications, be it uploads you've made, okay? So specific for this demonstration, I'd want us to go to the Living Atlas, okay? So Living Atlas is the heart of what really ArcGIS Online really stands for. So it's a whole community of specialists, analysts, executives, managers, just contributing content for analytics. So all these you see are content that have been publicly shared by different users within the ArcGIS Online community, right? So as we have our own accounts, we had to log in and we will be creating content here. You have different accounts also creating their own content in different silos. But now you can share all this content to one specific environment, which is called a living atlas. Okay, such that anybody can have access to any content, which is shared publicly. All right. So you can have access to applications. So as you can see from the categories, you can have different categories, right? You can even have categories for countries, right? You can have categories for items. So if your focus was to look for layers, and layers here will represent data, okay? Layers here will represent data, and feature layers, to be specific, will represent data, okay? If you go to feature layers, you'll be able to see data which are like actual spatial data. So this could be points, lines, polygons representing specific geographic features. Okay. So if you look at your layers and again, go to item type, layers, and then feature layers, you'll be able to see data that has been hosted on the Living Atlas. Okay. All right. So I want us to navigate specifically to Ghana. Again, this is just for the sake of our demonstration. Okay. So if you navigate specifically to Ghana, you can see that there are content for Ghana that have been uploaded. So we can look at the Ghana district boundaries for 2019. And once you click on that, you get an environment. So this is more like a metadata environment where you have the description of the data set, who manages this data set, when was it created, when was it updated, how many views it has, and a description of the data. All right. So if you click on the open in map viewer, it actually opens this data set for you to visualize on the map. All right. So you just give it a moment to load. And there you go. So now these are districts in Ghana, okay, specific to the 2019 period, okay. So zooming down to Accra, where a lot of the action happens in Ghana. You can actually click on a feature or a polygon. It gives you the name of that district and then the population of that district, okay. So this is just data that has just the name and the population of every district in Ghana, okay. So in the context of GIS, this is what you call a feature layer, all right. So you can do basic things as just visualizing this in your map, okay. So we can go ahead to save this map, and if we save this map, what we are basically doing, we are basically creating a map view of our data, okay. So I'd want us to go and save our data, so we can continue with our demonstration, okay. So if you come to the left section, save should be on this section. I hope you can see the icon here. So I think that should be the 7th icon, if I'm not mistaken. So you can now go ahead and save this map view. So once you click save, you should have a portion or a section that requests for you to save. So you can name this Ghana districts. You can give a tag to this, and tags are just meant for you to easily identify data in a pool of data sets. So you can give a tag as districts. So each tag simply is an identifier, okay? So that as your content is growing, you can easily use tag to search for content, okay? So district is enough. You can give a summary of what your data is. I'll just keep Ghana districts as my summary. And then your folder, you are requested to select a specific folder. Now this folder will be navigated to your content section. All right. So within content, you can go ahead and even create different folders. So if you're working on different projects, if you are working on different content, you can create your folders based on those contexts. Right now, the ADSC.2021 is the default folder. So you can go ahead and save your map there. So because we are using the same account, I would suggest we use a different name from Ghana districts. Okay, if we all use Ghana districts, we might conflict with this name. Okay, so maybe you can use Ghana districts dash your name. It's fine. Okay. All right, so let's quickly save our maps, and then we can navigate down to our content. Okay. So if you go to your content, you can see the map I've created. So if you create your own content, your content should appear there. Okay, so if you've created your own map, your map would appear under the content section. Okay. All right, great. So the next thing I would want us to do is actually to click on the map view we have, and we are going to create a very, very basic dashboard, very simple dashboard. Okay. So what I'll be doing here is I will be creating a web application. All right. So once you have saved your map view, it brings you back to that same metadata interface where you can see every single identifier. All right. So the name of the map, how many views it has, when it was created, when it was updated, and any other information. Okay. So we can go ahead and click on the Create Web Application and navigate down to dashboards. Okay. So for the sake of our demonstration, we would only be working with dashboards. All right, so under dashboard, you'll be requested to give a name to your dashboard. So I'll just add dashboards to make it more contextual. And then I'll keep my summary as Ghana district. Tags would also keep it as that. All right, so it's as simple as just clicking the create dashboard and it navigates you to the dashboard interface. Okay, so again, just for the sake of time, we would just be creating a dashboard with one element. All right, so quickly to navigate you through the dashboard interface. So this is where we create dashboards. So all those nice fanciful dashboards you saw in our presentation were actually created through this web application. All right, so you don't really need to be IT savvy to use this application. All right, it's as simple as just clicking, selecting an element, configuring that element, and then you have a dashboard. All right, so you don't really need to be very IT savvy to build this. All right. All right, so let's do very basic stuff. Let's because our data is very basic, we don't have much in the data. We just have population and then the district name. All right, so we can't do much here. All right, but we can do something as simple as even counting the number of districts we have in there. All right, so this is a number indicator. All right, and the number indicator basically counts the number of features mapped in our displayed in our map. So if you have points, lines, polygons, in our context we have polygons, it will give you the number of polygons. So you can do basic statistical computations here. In our case, finding the count would be useful. We don't have much information, so we'll stick to the count. And we can do basic things as even giving a header. So say we wanted to say count districts, okay? We could do that, all right? And the middle value gives us the value, all right? And then we can even give a button, a subscription, right? So we can say this data is for 2019, right? So once you click add, this will be added to our dashboard, and you can see this is counting the number of features we have. All right. All right. So again, because of our data, we don't have much. We can't do charts and all, but still working with our number indicator, we can take this a step further. All right. We can go ahead and add another indicator. All right. And then instead of just counting, we can do number of districts in our view. All right. So let's say we wanted to count districts based on the extent of view we have for our map. It's very reasonable, right? So we could do that. So we could do that by going down to general, and then we can play around with some indicators. All right. So for now, I think, okay, so I think there's a lot more we have to do before we get this to work. So let's go ahead and just add this for now. And then we can do things as simple as changing the positions of our elements, right? So you can see these two elements are still just showing us. So what we are going to do next is to be able to count the number of districts based on this view, all right? That should be possible, all right? So let us go into our map view. So anytime you select an element, you have the option to perform something called configuring, all right? So configuring is where you change the various properties or settings, okay? So as simple as just going into our map view, we can go ahead and even change various map actions, all right? So we can give our targets, all right? Now, the kind of operation I'm trying to do, I can only do it with this, all right? So you can see now our number of districts has changed, and this is changing because of the operation I just did, all right? So this is showing us the number of districts in our view, okay? So you can see as I zoom out, this changes. As I zoom in, this changes, okay? So it means that here there are 24 districts in my view, all right? Let me quickly show you how I did that again. So back to our map settings, down in map actions, we can just go ahead and add a target, okay? Now, when you have already created your indicator, you would have to add that indicator, all right? In my case, I know my indicator is indicator 2. So once I add that, what that means is this is actually changing all settings based on my map extent, okay? So when map extent changes, my indicator will also change. That is what it basically means. So hence how I created this indicator setting, okay? So let's do one last thing. Let's add a header, which is basically there to inform whoever is viewing this dashboard. So headers, we can do basic elements as changing colors, background color, and maybe text color can change. You can see we are already having a very nice dashboard. I know it is very basic, but again, for the sake of time, we can't do much. So this is just a starter pack to really using location intelligence, okay? And this is already, we've created a dashboard. So you can go ahead and do something very basic. So you can go ahead and even switch the theme. So you can see once you switch the theme, everything goes into dark mode. And once you switch the theme, everything goes into light mode and all. All right. So that should give us a dashboard. You can share this link. This is a dashboard link. You can share this with anybody, and the person will have access to this dashboard. All right. So I think that should bring us to the end of our session. Okay, so I don't know if there are any questions so far. Okay, so how long is the dashboard? So this dashboard is available till there is no end to this. Okay, so the dashboard you have here, you can it keeps running. Once it's live, it keeps running. So I can keep adding content. So the same way I added this map view, I can add other elements or other features, maybe town points, business locations, and all. And I can configure this dashboard to have a lot more elements to it. Okay, so the dashboard is live as long as the account is live. All right, I don't know if that answered your question, Linda. All right, so any other questions on the application demonstrations? Any other questions? Or even general questions on the presentation? So let me switch over my screen back to my PowerPoint mode. I wish to thank everyone who participated. These are my contacts, so you can reach me via mail. So that's my, sorry, I think there was a mistake in one of the emails. So the email is actually as displayed instead. All right, so that's my corporate mail, that's my personal mail. So you can reach me if you have further questions, you need clarification, you need information on how to build some of these tools for your companies. We are always open to support whoever reaches out. So also to thank the Mobile Web Ghana team for putting this together. I believe this will go a long way to really change a lot of lives, a lot of people's understanding of the extent to which you can take analytics, specifically to location intelligence. So thanks for the time, and I believe we'll meet again sometime in another session. Thank you.